I want to start with this real quick. This is an MMA podcast. Paul, we built our lives on MMA, right? So, of course, we're biased. I spent all day Saturday sitting on my couch, ordered DoorDash twice. It was great. It was great. Nice. I had 5 guys, and then later on we got pizza. I'm like, I don't care. I'm jet lagged. So anyway, I stuffed my face. I had a very slovenly day, but I was very entertained because we had UFC Noche on, and then, of course, straight in to the boxing that Dana White promoted, Zuffa boxing, TKO boxing, whatever, Crawford versus Canelo. I just want to say this, and I want to get your opinions. Whilst I started off as a boxing fan. I'll never forget watching Frank Bruno become the champion of the world when he took on Oliver McCall in 1995. I watched him with my dad. I watched Frank Bruno as a kid. I grew up watching a lot of boxers, Joe Calzaghe, Ricky Hatton. We'll get to him later. So I loved boxing. I loved boxing. I'm telling you, these two sports are day and fucking night. Okay, right? The main event was great between Crawford and Canelo. It was a technical fight, but compared to what I saw at UFC Noche, I'm sorry. Okay, there's a clear winner. I mean, don't get me wrong, the production was incredible. I'm not shitting on the event or anything like that. I'm just talking about the two sports. I much prefer mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I mean, after the UFC card, the boxing card was kind of like a downshifting towards the end of the night situation, because the UFC card was so exciting, and just watching dudes. I know it was very technical, the main event, but there was like very little to no excitement in it, right? Like nobody really got hit too flush and like damage. The best shot Crawford hit Canelo with, like everybody just kind of ate everything. Nobody seemed like they were in danger all night. I wasn't excited. It was interesting, but I wasn't excited.
Yeah, I just want to say, and Paul, give your take in a second. By the way, what a spectacle. And that is something you don't see in mixed martial arts. I mean, what they pulled off Saturday night at the Allegiant Stadium, holy shit, right? Just to be a part of that. I mean, can you imagine Canelo and Crawford, the walkouts that they had, the production levels? Because I remember Callum was watching with me and he went to the bathroom and it was a number 2, not a number 1. I'm like, dude, so I paused it and I rewound it. I said, you've got to see this. When Canelo walks out, he's got all the belts and you get the whole like overhead shot and like he's walking out of those tunnels with all the faces and on them and everything. I was like, wow. And the mariachi bands and everything. I was like, this shit is insane. It's insane. It was amazing. But even still, I'm talking about the two sports. And obviously we're biased as a mixed martial arts podcast. I love boxing. There's some great fights. There's amazing fights. But I'm an MMA guy. Paulie, what's your take?
I mean, I watched Noche. Incredible. What a main event. And the one thing that stands out to me always, and again, I'll be honest, I was watching the beginning of the Canelo Crawford main card, watched the first couple fights, fell asleep, woke up at 1 a.m, and Crawford was just making his way to the ring. And I went to my bed. My wife's already asleep. I put it back on. Round 1 starts. I watched round 1. And I fell back asleep. But what I did notice is I was sitting there with Christine before we went to bed eventually. And I'm like, when are they going to show a fight? We know how big this fight is. We've been hyped. There's a countdown. There's a bringing, all this information to this constantly. How much do we need to show? These guys are superstars. We get it. We know that already. We're tuning in to watch these fights. Let's either just show the main event and skip these other 10 and 12 round fights, because dude, that's my only thing about boxing right now is you watch an MMA fight. First of all, most of them are 15 minutes or less. We don't hype things up that much. We get right to it unless it's a big fight. And we show a little bit. We show just enough to get you intrigued for the fight. And then you're in the fight. They were talking about Grubhub bags of what represents what Canelo would be and what Crawford. What are we doing right now? And listen, it still looked amazing because obviously Zuffa and Dana and the Turk and all that are behind it. So everything looked incredible. But again, We're just filling time to fill time for what? To get more buys? You're not getting buys because you're talking about what Canelo's Grubhub order would be.
Yeah, but that's just kind of like the boxing way. Do you know what I mean?
Needs to stop.
Do that. They put on these concerts in between and stuff like that, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in Saudi Arabia. It just seems to be the way that they do it.
And then the fight starts and it's boxing.
Yeah, but,
so
that's
there's
this
12
is more
rounds.
about what I want to get into. Like, because I was watching, obviously I've watched loads of fights, and the fight before, Callum Walsh, that was a good fight, but they were so evenly matched to one another. Neither guy could really get an advantage, but it was very, very good technical stuff. The fight before, it was some French Cameroonian or something, Mbili or something.
That fight was great.
That fight was incredible.
That fight was wild. It was insane. But I'm watching the main event and all of the fights, 3 minutes versus 5 minutes. I'm a much bigger fan of a 5-minute round. A, when I'm fighting, and B, when I'm watching, because 3 minutes, I don't know. I don't know if because I'm so brainwashed. It's a 5
by like that, right?
It goes by like that.
Yeah.
And you can't really get anything going on. It's like, I remember when I was sparring, we used to do the Shark Tank rounds and we throw in a fresh opponent every minute. And I used to say, listen, I understand the concept behind it, that the guys are fresh and they're pushing me. I said, but can we do it every 2.5 minutes? Because I need a little bit of time to figure them out, to get a rhythm, to start picking them apart, to start like, there's good days where they come in and they're pushing you. But I want to break them down. I want to get a rhythm. I want to start setting up traps and stuff like that. I can't do that with 60 seconds. And I feel like with a 5-minute round versus a 3-minute round, there's just so much more time, to kind of get a game plan going, and it's just a better setup, if you ask me. Yeah.
You think we'll ever see 5-minute boxing rounds?
No, it's just so many shots to the head, right? Because then at the end of the day, it is just boxing. And I don't say that derogatory. I say that it's just shots to the head and body, right? So at least in MMA, there's a reason there's 5 minutes. Like Michael's talking about, there's more time to get things going, but there's more options as well. And for me, and I get the other side of the coin too, where people say, the skills have to be at such a level because it is only one discipline. And I get that. And I respect it 100%. But for me as a fan of combat sports, that is why I love mixed martial arts, because anything can happen. When a guy gets going, you think he is fucked. He's done. He's going to get KO'd. He scores a massive freaking suplex on a guy. The next thing you know, he's on top. Look at Lopez and John Silva. How many times did that flip where you're like, oh, Lopez is going to murder him in the first round. Then he's getting rocked left and right on the feet. Then he lands a spinning. Like, there's some boring MMA fights out there, but man, when they're good, they are great.
Listen, I'm not saying every MMA fight is great, because there's been plenty of terrible. There's been plenty of turds. And there's good boxing and there's bad boxing. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I just prefer the formula. I prefer the variety of attacks. And that just, I don't know, it just stood out to me as I was watching both products. Both, obviously, one's UFC and the other one's promoted by Dana, and it was promoted fantastically, and the whole spectacle was mind-blowing. And I've never been involved in anything near that. I mean, that was something that really was historic, something for the ages. I fought George St. Pierre at Madison Square Garden. Unbelievable. Mega fight, super fight, 3 title fights in one night. Still didn't come near close to the spectacle that was on Saturday night. It was unbelievable. But they're just a core product. And yes, there'll be a lot of boxing fans that completely disagree. And I get that and I respect that, because boxers are tremendous at what they do. But to your point, Paul, about the 3-minute rounds, it is just boxing. It is just punches to the head or the body. So, yeah, you couldn't do 5. Mike Harrington, you haven't said much.
I've just been doing my homework on this. Like, I looked it up. It was a 4-fight main card. And as Paul said, Crawford didn't make the ring walk until 1 a.m. So averaging an hour and 20 minutes per fight on the undercard is just crazy. Like, you're never going to convert
that's my biggest
a casual fan. And then on top of that, like, what made the Tyson-Paul fight, like, we watched it together in New York. What made that fight so interesting is that Friday night in New York City, every single TV in the city was turned on to Netflix for Tyson versus Paul at like 8 p.m. on a Friday night. That's how you bring boxing back, is putting these marquee can't miss events that are quote unquote free on Netflix in front of as many eyes as possible. Putting it on at 1 a.m. on the East Coast, there's just no way to grow. Also add to that, you had a 4-fight main card. Every single one of them went to a decision. One of them was even a draw. There was a 5-fight UFC main card. 3 of the 5 fights ended by finish. So it's like, of course, if you're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah. But to that point, Harrington, listen, that's often what you get if you evenly match 2 people. You know, when the fights are very evenly matched, you can't look at that and necessarily point that out as a negative. That's just the nature of the beast sometimes.
But as the guy sitting on the couch,
like in Paris, we had nearly all finishes. Sometimes we get nearly all decisions. And, and you're losing your mind. You're like, Jesus Christ, you need a bit of excitement.
My thing about the way they do the build up, though, like, I don't mind a good decision, a competitive fight. I love a competitive fight, back and forth. A draw means it was very back and forth, evenly matched. But like Harrington saying, an hour and 20 minutes or more per fight is because we're building so much then in between each one to keep hyping up the fight that's going to be at 1 a.m. and it's like, that's why I'm here. Let these guys fight. Let's keep going. Like, why are we stopping for 45 minutes between that fight or 30 minutes?
Let me ask you, Paul, what was Canelo's Grubhub order?
Oh, dude, I don't even remember.
There was golf stuff in there. There was golf
it was
stuff.
golf.
I remember
That's
it was golf stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a boxing broadcast. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Hey, no. Oh dear. Should we but I tell you what. And the thing is, this boxing is huge because it's been around forever, hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's widely recognized all over the world and everywhere. I mean, it's getting that way with UFC now, but still not at the same level because of the history involved. Could you imagine in hundreds of years when like literally everyone knows what MMA and UFC is, because it's heading that way. I mean, look at what's happened in 30 years. In hundreds of years, Jesus Christ. They'll be like, remember that podcast? Bisping and Felder? That was one of the early pioneering podcasts. Wow. That's unreal stuff.
That's right. When they came and did a show.
Yeah, when they showed up, it was good. All right, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, and Prize Picks is the simplest game to play if you want to make some money. All you got to do is pick more or less on a 2 to 6 player stat projection, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Like if we're talking about MMA, will Ilia Topuria land more or less than 2 takedowns? Pick 2 to 6 apps just like that, and you are off to the races. If you are correct, you can make a lot of money. Prize Picks puts their users first. So all withdrawals, by the way, are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And Prize Picks also offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. So yes, of course, we're talking about the football season, which is well underway. So this week, Saquon Barkley, will he get more or less than 1 rushing touchdown? Josh Allen, will he get more or less than 270 passing yards? That is 2 stats that you could use, and you can do 2 to 6 stats if you really want to cash in. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code BELIEVE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup.